All right, good afternoon. Thanks for being with us today. I am Spokane Mayor Nadine Woodward, and we're here to address the events that happened yesterday in our city. Behind me, and also speaking today, will be Police Chief Craig Meidel, Lonnie Mitchell, City Councilwoman Betsy Wilkerson, Katara Johnson, Philip Tyler, Sean Davis, and Curtis Robinson. So thank you for being with us. I just want to start off by saying for most of what happened yesterday afternoon was about who we are as a city. Before the event, we had dozens of people in Riverfront Park at the Red Wagon praying for a peaceful event, praying for an important message to permeate our community. And I want to thank the prayer warriors in this city for praying for protection and safety during our protest. Thousands then gathered in Riverfront Park, marched across the Monroe Street Bridge and to the Public Safety Building, where for several hours, our community engaged in a very important conversation. A conversation about what happened in Minneapolis and about justice for all. During those several hours, there were high tensions, high emotions, and very important conversations amongst protesters and between protesters and our police officers. Police officers who were verbally assaulted, rocks thrown at them, water bottles thrown at them, and they were very patient. And I would say the image of many of our law enforcement taking a knee alongside protesters was an incredible example of unity and solidarity. Our protest for most of the afternoon was a powerful example to the rest of the country about what we are as a community. As many left, most of the protesters left and went home to their families and their neighborhoods, another group showed up. The rioters and the looters who broke business windows, tagged many buildings, looted the Nike store behind us, and refused police orders to disperse. That is not Spokane. That is not who we are. But here we are, just a few hours later, where it's all cleaned up, the graffiti is gone, the glass is off the sidewalk, because who we are returned this morning, our community members. Many of them were there yesterday to clean up our city, to show our community what we are. What an incredible, incredible thing. We had some people from Gonzaga University, some of the protesters who organized this morning's cleanup. In fact, I had called the Downtown Spokane Partnership, Mark Richard, and said, even before the destruction and disruption started last night, and I said, you might want to have your ambassadors double staffed tomorrow. There may be something to clean up. He called me this morning, he said, Mayor, there was nothing to clean up. It's a new day. It's a new day and our city is back to what it was before. I'm just going to tell you those conversations will continue as we move forward between community members, our police department, our African American leaders. It won't stop. I also want to thank not just the exemplary example of our police department through all of yesterday, but the other jurisdictions that came to help. We had officers from Kennewick, Tri-Cities, Kootenai County, Cheney, our Spokane County deputies, all here to help us. And now we have the National Guard that's here to also relieve our officers who put in a very, very full weekend. And I am very proud of all of them and of the collaboration that we have made. And so now I'd like to invite our police chief to talk about the events that unfolded yesterday and about what we're going to be doing tonight to secure our downtown and public safety for all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. So yesterday's rally in support of a tragic event that happened in Minneapolis, the preparations for that started quite a while ago from our perspective. So we had intelligence even before the event started that we were going to have some antagonists coming into the area with the intent of provoking law enforcement into confrontation. In fact, as our officers were staged there, because we started to hear more and more intelligence about some of these antagonists coming in, we decided we were going to have a bigger presence because we wanted this rally to occur peacefully. Prior to the rally starting at 2 o'clock, we saw some groups bringing in jugs of water and milk, commonly used in a lot of protests you see to wash out chemical agents. So we saw a group carrying a bag full of baseball bats and clubs. Saw an individual with an umbrella and a huge spike on top of it. So we were able to look at this and see where they were pre-staging these, and we knew that this was a group who had experience in committing riots and disorder, and we knew that they brought that equipment for a reason. They pre-staged it for a reason. Having said all of that, we had an individual as well, once the rally started, that was within the rally, trying to start fights with people that were attending that rally, swinging at people, trying to create issues, going from one person to the other. In the middle of a big group. Once it was safe to do so, our officers moved to take that person into custody and move him out of the rally. That individual was followed by a large group of friends who surrounded our officers as well. So while this was going on, the rally then started to proceed down to the public safety campus while we were dealing with this individual with our officers surrounded. Once we got that situation under control, we were able to stage with the officers that were already down at the public safety campus, allowed the rally to continue. While the officers were there, there was a small group, and I want to stress a very small group in the back that were throwing rocks and stones at our officers. We had another female with a backpack that was handing out spray bottles to spray on the officers. Some of our officers were able to see on some TV of our officers having these things sprayed at them. But despite that, the officers stood there, as you heard the mayor say. The officers took a knee in show of unison and solidarity for the pain that we are feeling as a nation as well. That rally ended, and we had a group of about 400 to 500 that continued south into the city. This group of 400 or 500 marched through the streets of downtown, zigzagging all the way from Cedar to Division. Our intent was to allow them to march, not to stop this, let them take over the streets while we could try to keep them and the traffic as safe as possible. That group ended up at the federal courthouse. We had multiple taggings at the federal courthouse. We did have one of our police cars was tagged as well. While they're at the federal courthouse, after the tagging had finished, they then marched down to the mall down here, Riverfront Park Mall. Again, our intent was to allow them to, if they needed to take over the streets for a while, allow them to take over the streets. At one point, they started breaking windows and entering the businesses that you see behind me. Once they decided they're going to break in and start looting the businesses, we immediately engaged and we gave a dispersal order. We gave multiple dispersal orders to these individuals that they needed to leave. It was very loud, very clear. The individuals did not leave. Obviously, we learned from what happened in other areas as well. You can see it going on in Chicago, LA, Phoenix. We knew we had to disperse this small group that was separate from the initial rally as well. We continue to try to move them out of the downtown area. This group would move a few blocks and then reconfigure, move a few blocks, and then regroup as well. We asked for resources from Kootenai County, Coeur d'Alene, Cheney, the Sheriff's Office, detention services. We had the Chief of Moses Lake that offered services as well. So throughout the night, we continually tried to push them out of the city. And finally, at about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, we were finally able to clear the group. We did request the National Guard service as well. So the National Guard assisted in guarding the public safety campus, and then they also assisted us in having a presence downtown as well. Thank you.
Hello. I was at the rally yesterday, and I was by the Red Wagon, and the sea of people there looked like the Spokane we want. It was so diverse, and it was unified. The rally was amazing. I stayed till about 5 o'clock, and then I saw what was going on. But I want to say, first of all, to my people of color out there, and I've said it before, please tell your children to be safe. We want our kids to come home too. My grandparents, my parents, and I have seen rallies and protests all my life, and nothing's different. So I'm challenging everybody, what will tomorrow bring? We came together as a city, we got downtown cleaned up, our businesses are open, but there has to be tomorrow, people. So I say to you, don't loot, don't destroy property, but please keep protesting.
I'm a mother of 4 African-American young men, 4 black sons. So this was extremely hard and difficult for me, as it is for many African-American mothers across the world, because they can see their child in that situation if it wasn't for mercy, grace, and the prayers that they pray for their children each and every day. When I heard the news of the peaceful protest, and I also saw information that was forwarded to me in a message, I looked down and I started crying, because I knew that we had to do something different. This wouldn't work, because it seemed as if people were preparing for war instead of praying for peace. And I know that it's not what George Floyd would have wanted, not at all. So I got on my knees. That's the only thing I have. I didn't have a lot of money. I got on my knees and I started praying. And then I thought about, what is it that will unite all of us? And it was our faith. It was mothers, because this is not just black sons, these are America's sons. I started praying for the police, and people said, why are you praying for the police? Because we have to pray for each other, everyone. It is all important for us to do this together. Black people can't do it alone. White people can't do it alone. Advocates can't do it alone. Elected officials can't do it alone. We must do this together. We do it better together. And I cried because I remember the civil rights movement came out of the church. That's where it started. And what you see up here is a lot of the pastors and the clergy in our area. And when I made the clarion call out for believers to come down to the park and pray at the wagon at noon, I didn't know what to expect, but there were so many people who came down of all different ethnicities to pray for our community, to pray for the police, to pray for black sons, to pray for mothers, to end all of this violence, because this is not the answer. And I believe that our prayers were answered, because not only was it a peaceful protest and our people were safe, but our police officers were safe. The buildings can break, but we saw what our community does when we come together, and that is what we need. Not to spread the message of hate. You can be upset, but use that to rebuild the community. Use that upset and that passion and that anger and that frustration to create policy change. Work with the police. I don't want to just protest. That's why I didn't go down to protest, because I know if we're going to sustain this change, we have to build relationships and not burn the bridge. If we don't build the bridge, we can't walk back over it to connect both sides. So that is what I came down with, the best things that I knew how to do. Pray and call for those who say that they believe in God and believe that every man and woman was created in the image of God. And if we believe that, I said, come down to the wagon and let us pray. And that is exactly what we did. And we prayed for this city. And what we see this morning was hope. Hope. Because nobody had to ask anybody to come down here and be the change. They just did it. Because that is Spokane, and that is community. Thank you.
My name is Philip Tyler. I'm the former president of Spokane NAACP. I want to be clear in my message. I am here today for our mayor. I am here today for our chief of police. I am here today for our sheriff. I am here today for our councilwoman. I am here today for my black community. I am here today for my Spokane community. I want to give a message, and it's very simple. My mama taught me this. My mama said, you have 4 fingers and 1 thumb. That makes you human. What you do with those determines your humanity. Now, you can ball them in fist and fight the other. You can ball them in fist and smash windows. You can use them to point self-righteous blame at the other. You can use it to wag your finger in the face of other and deny their humanity. You can put your thumb in your mouth, curl up like a baby, and ignore what's going on around in the world and society. Or, Spokane, you can use your hands to applaud the efforts that our elected officials did. You can applaud our peaceful protesters, showing the example, setting the example. You can use those hands to applaud our law enforcement that showed great restraint. You can use your hand to extend it to a neighbor. You can use your hand to text or write a message to the brothers and sisters that are hurting. I'm hurting today. My councilwoman is holding back tears. You can use your hands to roll up your sleeves like Brother Sather Gowdy and Heal Spokane did and downtown Spokane did to clean up the mess created by those fools that wanted to sow discontent and division in our community. You can use your hands, like Sister Katara said, to clasp them together on bended knees and pray for healing in our community. And we can use our hands to be interlocked, as we are today, to say, you can't break us. You can't divide us. We are Spokane. What will your humanity be? Thank you.
So my name is Pastor Sean Davis, and I want to say thank you, first of all, to Mayor Nadine for inviting us to come and be a part, again, of this Even Press Conference. For me, first of all, as a young black man and father of young black boys, this is something historically that is very challenging for many of us, because I was on the streets during the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles. And at a time where you felt like you finally got some video evidence to be able to prove what's really been happening in our community for years. We wasn't afforded the leisure of a lot of our young people today with cell phones and videos right there at your hand. But now we finally got something that we can prove with some of the injustice that was taking place in our communities, only for those 4 officers to still get acquitted. And this stuff continued to kind of embed that pain, that hurt, to where you're asking yourself, when is it going to change? When are we going to truly find that sense of justice where our even white colleagues in our systems are hearing our voices? And you hear the chants, you hear the cry, whether it's just, I can't breathe, or hands up, don't shoot. But the truth of the matter, it is simply saying, do you hear us? Can you hear our voices? Can you hear our cry? And I believe, and I'm invested in this because of the evidence that Spokane proved to me that we are a different city. 8 years ago, we addressed this with one of our former police chiefs of how do we reconcile our community together with law enforcement in our communities of color. We can no longer be 2 cities in one city. We can no longer be divided where it's us and against them. But he finally had somebody that finally heard us to a place of recognizing that if we're going to move forward as a city, we got to be able to embrace the fabrics of every citizen that belongs to the city. It should not be that certain people are not as relevant as others. Everybody got to be important to this process. And that chief was able to hear our voice, to be able to say we got to do something about this, and we were able to support them starting programs to be more bridge builders instead of wall builders. Walls are intended to divide us. Walls are intended to keep those out that you don't want in, and to keep, again, even those inside kind of protected from what we, I'm going to say, assume to be a threat to our own happiness and our own prosperity. This police department have committed themselves to say, you know what, we're going to tear those walls down. We're going to bring community policing to a place where they're going to be boots on the ground and to be able to build respectful relationships with our community. So it does not have to be that we have to yell at you simply because of the emotional and the social distance that has been between us. Generally, when people have to yell, it's because you're far away and I want you to hear me. Truth of the matter is that we can be close in proximity and we're still yelling at each other. That tells me that we are disconnected emotionally and socially. And I appreciate the city for being able to say, you know what, we're going to do something different. And they were able to put their police officers back into our community, build those relationships with our young people through even athletic programs, and come into our schools and begin to sit down and have courageous conversation. Police officers listening to our young people and being able to hear and understand where their mistrust is truly coming from. And that began the road to reconciliation, of bridging those gaps with those families, as well as, again, our community. So I'm grateful to say that I was here supporting the rally, and it was, again, very peaceful, very, I feel, prosperous. The diversity of perspectives that was even being spoken and chanted all the way down to the court building. But it does sadden me to see that sometimes you have people with their own agenda who don't understand the fathers and mothers who have been crying for centuries to have platforms that have their voices heard. And I want to say that I'm appreciative of this mayor, this police chief, of saying that we are not going to allow our community to be cheated out of that message being sent, that we are truly here to be one people, one city, one voice, and to stand together as one people. So I say thank you, Spokane. Mayor Nadine, Police Chief Craig, I thank you, all of you, for even coming today. We can do this, and we're going to do it together. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Curtis Robinson, and I serve as the current president of the Spokane branch of the NAACP and the executive director for I Did the Time. I want to start off by thanking the mayor, the chief of Spokane Police Department, Chief Meidel, for putting this together, inviting all of us here, and really representing what they are genuinely representing here, which is that it's about all of us or none of us. I mean, and it's just that simple, and so what I witnessed yesterday in my participation in this historic event that occurred here in Spokane is that Spokane spoke up. Spokane meant it. And Spokane hopefully will continue to do so and not just represent what was expressed out here with such great enthusiasm, self-control, and energy, but continue to represent that with meaningful action and follow-through, restorative processes, and accountability for everyone. One of the conversations I continue to have is the conversation I've coined as on both sides of the badge. There are human beings on both sides of these issues. And as long as we continue to have that real view about that, we'll be able to see each other and respond accordingly. And experiencing yesterday as I did, I looked at our family in blue and yellow, right? Our sheriffs and Spokane Police Department. And I watched them get challenged. And I watched them deal with that challenge. And I thought to myself as I was going up and down that line and talking back and forth and, stay in place and, interacting and interceding and all of that kind of stuff, I thought, that's what we need our law enforcement to look like all the time. Not just this day, thank God for this day. But we need that all the time, and I think that's what some of that cry is about, is that as a Eastern Washington community and as a nation, we have yet to fully accomplish that. But that's where we need to go, and I believe what we witnessed here today and yesterday was the clarion call for that, the outcry, the anguish that it hasn't manifested yet, and the dire need for it. And so as we continue to kind of move through this and address some of these things that have happened, we must look at this from both sides. We must look at the fact that the reason that we are here is because there are some people that operate within the law enforcement community that don't behave as they should or as they have sworn to do. And yet what we also witnessed here this evening or yesterday evening is that there are some human beings on the other side of the badge that don't behave as they should or do as they're supposed to do. And how do we own that place as human family and quit blaming each other for the fact that we're here and start doing something meaningful about it. Something restorative and accountable, transparent, meaningful, sustainable. We're being invited to change, transform, and shift to a new place. Do you hear the call? Will you respond? What will that response be? Or is it just going back to the same old status quo that got us here in the first place? I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to stand amongst all of these wonderful human beings right here, my human family, and so many more. And I have a message for you from some of the organizers of the event that this event was definitely hijacked. The response was far beyond what anybody anticipated. And what we saw here was some fringe groups, some of them, and the chief knows, has more intel than I do about this, but some of them were bussed in, some of them were planted here, and maybe even some of them might actually be some Spokanites that were kind of like talked into it. Don't really know, wasn't there. But what I do know is that what the mayor has talked about is that is not our Spokane. That is not the Spokane we need to see and that we want to be. We're going to continue to fight and struggle to do better, lock arms as Katara and Pastor have talked about, and walk forward into that journey together, into that undiscovered country, because the reality is we have not been there yet, and that's where we got to go. It's going to be bumpy. It's going to be uncertain. You know what? We need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because our comfort zones is the problem. Our comfort zones have been raised and have that historic context embedded in it. And we need to dismantle that and replace it with something much more humane, much more loving, so much better. And that's what we're crying out for. We can only get there together.
Thank you so much for all of you being here. What a proud time that we have right here. So I just want to speak briefly about who Spokane is. Spokane is our mayor, understanding that everybody lives matter. That's Spokane. Spokane is our chief of police. Amen. Craig. Amen. Understanding that everybody has a voice and that voice needs to be heard. Who is Spokane? Spokane was all of the people protesting peacefully yesterday and doing all that they needed to do to honor George Floyd. That was Spokane. And y'all, you know, who Spokane is? Spokane is us. We are Spokane. This is Spokane right here. And what the nation saw yesterday, before all of that mess started, was a city united and moving forward and doing what we must do. So I tell you what, y'all, anybody who is out here that may be on the other side that's trying to destroy what Spokane is, you're not Spokane. We are Spokane together, and together we will go forward and just continue to bring this city to be what it's supposed to be. God bless you guys, and God bless Spokane. God bless America. Amen. God bless you.
Well, that's our news conference. I'm sure some of you have questions, so if you wouldn't mind directing those questions to specific individuals. And we don't want it to go too long, so go ahead. Question was if I plan on issuing another curfew tonight. Not at this time, but that could change. So there are certain circumstances that you have to be able to show to issue a curfew. We certainly had that last night. We have not received information that we would need to do so this evening, but that could change.
So the question was how many people were arrested. We arrested about 15 people last night. 15, one for malicious mischief, one for a Department of Corrections warrant, and then we actually arrested the others for disorderly conduct.
Can I follow up? We had some video of a car that was like deliberately crashing into people yesterday right around the corner. Can you elaborate more on that situation?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of information about that. I know we had one complainant call in and say that someone had jumped on their vehicle with their kids in the vehicle, and they were frightened, so they left, and that person fell off. So not sure if there's a confusion between those two or not from what we have, but we are investigating that as well. But the initial reports we received is someone jumped on this car, they had their kids in there, they panicked, so they took off.
Is Antifa in town, and are they making any plans?
The question was, is Antifa in town? Are they making any plans? We are getting some intelligence that they are going to try to recreate last night tonight. My message is we are ready for that. We prepared. We definitely don't want them coming down here. Again, this is about honoring the memory of George, who died a tragic death. This isn't about any other cause right now at this time. So we'll have increased staffing downtown, and we want to make sure everything stays safely. And I think most of the Spokane agrees. We want everyone to be able to come down. Businesses are starting to open up again. Let's get back to where we want to be now.
Chief, what was the role of what is going to be the role of the National Guard, and about what time did they arrive?
So I won't go into specifics of details. We're really going to ask the National Guard to more be in a protective mode for different assets.
Will they concentrate on downtown if we're prepared again for tonight?
We'll have some downtown, and we'll have some more at some other locations as well.
I have two questions. Do you agree with the sheriff's description of these were Antifa socialists? And number two, what sort of instruction were given to the officers who took it easy?
So I don't know if they're socialists or not. Didn't get a chance to interview them. We do know there were some Antifa down here. They had masks that said Antifa. There's a woman with a bullhorn that was espousing Antifa rhetoric as well, trying to stir up the crowd. As far as the guidance where the officers and deputies given guidance for Nino, that was completely their decision.
Can you speak to the use of tear gas, and was there a specific, why it was used? Was there a specific incident that prompted its use as well?
Yeah, so anytime you use tear gas or any other kind of munitions, that's something we take very seriously. That's a very, very rare occurrence in Spokane. I will tell you, having 500 individuals march through downtown for an hour and a half, taking over streets, damaging the federal courthouse, damaging police cars, and then breaking and entering into a couple of our businesses downtown, that is equally rare in Spokane. So there gets to be a level where you're outnumbered 1 to 10, and you realize that you have to stop this. And we see what goes on in the rest of the nation as well, and across all these other cities, and you see the damage that's going on, and you see what happens if it is not stopped. So at that point, we're willing to give them a certain amount of latitude. When you want to start damaging property or hurting people, that's where your latitude ends. We're going to give you plenty and ample opportunity to leave. We're not just going to fire tear gas or anything else. We're going to tell you, you need to leave. We're going to give you multiple warnings. At that point, we have an obligation, and the community expects us to protect property, protect other people as well. But I assure you that plenty of warning is given for people to leave. And if people are there, it's because they made the decision that they did not want to.
We witnessed tear gas being lobbed at people that weren't involved in any of the vandalism, or just were just there as a protest, including some of our people with our reporters who were there the whole time.
So,
why was that?
So there's a couple issues on that. One is when there's given a curfew, we already know that we can't let this group stay because they're going to stay here all night. And what we're seeing again in other cities is they may stop for a moment, stop for a little bit, but they're going to pick it up again. Again, this is what we're seeing in other cities. So when we're given a curfew and we're telling folks you need to leave the downtown, and they're giving out a warning, we're telling them to leave. We also know that some of these individuals were picking up our tear gas and throwing it back at us. We also know that some of the people in these groups were throwing rocks and stones at our officers. They have some injuries from getting hit with these items. So a lot of folks will go into these groups. They'll do what they're going to do, whether it's throw rocks or do damage, and then they go into these groups as well. We can't go in and individually pick these folks out, which is why we have the curfew and say, you all need to leave. Everybody needs to clear out of downtown. That's the best way to do it. So again, if folks are going to stay here when you give them that warning, we're going to clear you out.
So we're enforcing the curfew using tear gas. Is that going to be common going forward, or is it only when there's...
Let me ask you, when was the last curfew we had?
I don't know. It's been... I usually go to bed.
Hasn't been in 26 years. This is such an unusual occurrence where we had individuals from outside of the city pre-staging, different things that shows they have experience with what happens in these types of events when they bring in water and milk and those types of things. So they're going to continue to do what they're doing all night long like you see in these other cities. So I would say we're going to enforce a curfew. What I would say that in this environment with the type of intelligence we had and what we already saw occur, we are going to clear out the downtown. And we're asking people to comply. It's very clear the downtown. We do not want you downtown, please leave. So this isn't something where we're just arbitrarily or randomly deploying gas. This is where they have ample opportunities. So from basically 5 o'clock until almost midnight, we were dealing with this group. We were doing everything we could to get them to leave. We had to call in resources from all the way from the Tri-Cities, Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. So this was, right here now, it feels nice and safe. It didn't feel this way right at this intersection last night. Not when you had 200 people here. So a lot different today than it was last night.
Have you arrested anybody you believe is responsible for breaking the windows? Or
Not yet. We have some great video. We have lots of video from downtown that we're going over now. We're going to look to identify those people and make sure that we can charge them as well.
Video too of
How can I condemn?
How can you condemn officers in Minnesota and their excessive use of force by using tear gas on their own citizens?
So here's the thing that I think is important to remember. Here's a conflict I think a lot of people experience is just like any profession, you have officers that do things they should not do. You raise your kids the way they should go. You teach them rules and guidelines and policies. You discipline them, much like being a chief. But in the end, God gives them this thing called free will, and they're free to disappoint you. So when you have this small group of people that are doing something that they are not supposed to do, we can condemn that. We can indict them. We can say that's disgusting. But we can still appreciate the vast majority of good officers out here that go out every day. And as you've heard from individuals that were at the rally yesterday, extremely patient, getting pelted with rocks, getting pelted with bricks, having chemicals sprayed towards their face, showing extreme great restraint, getting down on their knees to show we hear you, we feel you, we agree with you. That was tragic. You have to bifurcate it. Those are completely two different incidents when you're having damage going downtown and you take the experiences from other cities. So I don't have your specific incident. If I have more information on your incident, I'd love to discuss that with you, but I don't have more information on your incident right now. What I can tell you is exactly what I already said, is when we're given a curfew, that means things are serious. In 26 years, I've never seen a curfew in this city. This is an unprecedented event. We have to make sure that we're going to protect the downtown area as well. And while there may have been many people down here from that 5 p.m. until midnight, there were a lot of other people that weren't. We had people up on some of these garages here pelting officers as well. And then what they like to do is pelt them, and then they like to go down and either blend in or they'll act like I wasn't doing anything, I was just walking home. So we see that all the time as well, which is why the curfew order allows us to say, that's okay, you need to leave the downtown now as well.
We have time for one more question. They've got their commitment today, so one more question.
So we had Antifa, we had Proud Boys, we had some militia, and we had some others that we didn't, that we just don't know about that were associated. So we had a number of different entities down here. I will tell you from what I saw, and I'm hearing some of the rumblings about the Proud Boys and militia, we are an open carry state. You can come into downtown Spokane and have a pistol on your hip. That is not illegal. You can have a rifle slung. It's not illegal. We identified some individuals very early that were open carrying. Totally legal. Once we got the curfew, that then gave us the authority to go up and tell them, you need to leave the downtown area. Once we did that, without exception, they left. They all left the downtown.
All right, thank you all for coming. We appreciate the time today. Thank you.